A 100-year-old Maui residence is shown vibrant in photos and in perfect condition, while all homes around it are gray with rubble and ashes from the fire. The couple that owns the home were out of town. They were made aware of the fire and that the whole neighborhood would likely burn down. But later they saw aerial photos that revealed their home was intact. The Milliken family purchased the home in 2021. They started crying when they realized their home still stands. Trip Milliken told the Honolulu Civil Beat that he felt guilty about his home surviving the disaster. Milliken said the home was made of California redwood, but so was the home that burned down next door. Lahaina residents are getting offers for their property just weeks after the wildfire destroyed their homes, but some locals aren't having it. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more.
Deborah Loeffler felt she couldn't lose much more after the Lahaina wildfire. Her 5-generation home was destroyed. Then she started getting emails from supposed realtors. They offered cash for the beachfront plot where her house used to be.
Well, I've got emails, and I think 2 were from local, and I trash canned them, and I cleared my trash can too, wanting to buy your home, and they had your address already.
Many families who lost homes don't have insurance. The Hawaii governor has warned against capitalizing on the disaster.
I have instructed the Attorney General to impose enhanced criminal penalties on anyone who tries to take advantage of victims by acquiring property in the affected areas.
But that hasn't stopped some people from offering to buy Loeffler's home.
I can't really remember. I was so upset that they'd even offer. I know they apologize for your loss and something about if you're wanting to relocate, we're willing to, I don't know exactly how it went, but something along those lines. So.
But Loeffler says there's no chance she's selling.
This is home. They've got family roots here. My youngest son wants to come back here and, finish raising his family here. We're not leaving.
More than 800 people are still missing. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Nissan Sentra owners, here's a recall you don't want to ignore. Nissan is calling back more than 235,000 Sentras because drivers could lose control of them. This issue is a front suspension rod that can bend on certain impact, like hitting a curb. Once that happens, the driver can lose the ability to steer the vehicle. Nissan will send letters to owners in October inviting them to have their cars inspected if they experience steering issues. Then, when replacement parts become available in the winter, all owners will be allowed to get the parts replaced, regardless of whether they have noticed issues. The affected vehicles are 2020 through 2022 models. Staying with car safety, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is proposing a new rule for passenger vehicles. It would expand seatbelt warning systems. Right now, automakers must equip vehicles with sounds to remind drivers to buckle up, but that could soon include front passenger and backseat riders. The agency wants to use sound and perhaps lights to urge people to buckle up. It says adding the extra warning could save about 100 lives a year. The public can comment on the proposed rule for the next 60 days. Thanks for staying with us. Tesla is notifying current and former employees of an insider data breach. Over 75,000 confidential employee records were exposed in May. Tesla says the leak involved social security numbers, names, and addresses. In a letter to the Maine Attorney General, Tesla wrote that a foreign media outlet told the company that it had obtained confidential Tesla information. The Germany-based newspaper received at least 100 gigabytes of confidential data from the 2 leakers. Handelsblatt newspaper reported in May that a disgruntled former employee provided the paper access to the files. Tesla says it filed a lawsuit against the 2 former employees. The electric car maker informed employees that it would offer complimentary membership to Experian Identity Works credit monitoring and identity theft service. Handelsblatt promised Tesla that it wouldn't publish any of the personal information, but it did report there were almost 4,000 customer complaints regarding Tesla's driver assistance technology in the leaked files. The IRS has come under fire by 3 Georgia businesses. They say a supervisor at the tax agency backdated approvals for fines. The issue centers around conservation easement deals, which is when people agree to restrict the use of their land for conservation purposes. By giving these agreements to charity, they can claim tax breaks. The IRS has been stepping up scrutiny for these cases, claiming taxpayers are taking advantage of it. But IRS agents can't impose penalties without a supervisor's signature. 3 Georgia companies, Arden Rowe Assets, Basswood Partners and Delwood Partners, say that's what happened. They filed a lawsuit last week. They allege that an IRS supervisor intentionally backdated approvals for millions of dollars in penalties. The IRS did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The conservation easement tax provision has proven difficult to administer. A Brookings Institution study said it ranks among the top 10 most litigated issues between the IRS and taxpayers. Think again, fentanyl kills. This message lit up a billboard in Times Square yesterday. It was National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. The CDC reported over 100,000 people died of drug overdoses and poisoning in the U.S. last year. Almost 70% involved in synthetic opioids like fentanyl. Here's the story.
A group called Facing Fentanyl held an awareness event Monday on Times Square. The organization warned people about the growing fentanyl poisoning problem in the United States.
This morning, our families stand in Times Square on the busiest street in America to acknowledge the hundreds of thousands of lives that have been lost to fentanyl poisoning.
The CDC says fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, about 50 times stronger than heroin, and 100 times more potent than morphine.
According to the CDC, the leading cause of death among Americans between ages of 18 and 45 is drug poisonings. The CDC estimates that over 110,000 Americans died from drug poisonings in just last year.
Many of the fentanyl poisoning victims didn't even realize they took fentanyl.
The national drug supply is tainted with this deadly analog called fentanyl. People, when they're suspecting to buy some kind of prescription medication on the street, Xanax, Klonopin, Valium, and end up overdosing or poisoned from fentanyl, that is a national scourge that's claiming the lives of more Americans than ever before we tracked.
Activists say educating the public is crucial in reversing the trend.
We're doing everything we can with moms and dads and brothers and sisters who have lost people to band together with our federal government and educate our communities. National drug supply is tainted. We wish it wasn't, but it was. One pill can kill.
The CDC recommends wider distribution of medications which reverse opioid overdoses and to increase awareness about access to treatment.
Behind the spike in deaths from the deadly opioid fentanyl is the age-old problem of addiction. In a 2-part series, we take a look at the nature of this beast and the hope for addicts and their families. Today, we'll hear the first-hand account of recovered opioid addict Roger Garrison.
I didn't really get introduced to any kind of drugs or addiction issues. I was actually in my 30s. And I had a couple of back operations, and I was taking a lot of pain meds at the time. And I started to realize as time went on that even when my back and stuff was getting better, that I still liked doing the pain meds. I was going to bed at night praying not to wake up again.
Roger had hit rock bottom. He lost everything. He was homeless. He didn't have a job. He had nothing.
I woke up one morning and I said, if I continue to do this, or if I continue on this road, I'm going to die.
He joined a 12-step program. These mutual aid groups consist of addicts helping other addicts through simple steps to recovery. There, in one of the group's weekly meetings, Roger met someone who told him how to get his life back.
First thing you have to do is you got to stop doing the drugs. You know, that's the most difficult thing probably there is to do. You know, that's the thing you have to do perfect. You can't use the drugs. You got to deal with things on a daily basis. But I find myself talking to people, one addict helping another. I have a close friend that when there's something really going on in my life, I'll call him up, he'll come over, we'll just shoot the breeze for an hour and a half and have coffee. And it's one-on-one, one addict helping another. That's how we get through it. So it's never too late, it's never too early. You know, but I consider myself blessed to have found where I'm at now in my life. And my life is really good. And I'm in one of the best spots that I've ever been in, even before I had issues there.
Roger's story is not uncommon, though you don't hear about it very often. As for his message to people struggling with addiction amid the fentanyl crisis, Roger has this to say.
It's a very difficult situation, but there's hope out there. You know, there are programs and there's people out there. You know, we look for people. We want people who are struggling to come in. That's the core of our program. You know, that's what we do. I mean, those people that come in struggling, we want to help them and show them there's a better way. And then when they get to that point, they can help others.
Visitors to a well-known sunflower farm in the UK are being urged to keep their clothes on. The Stoke Fruit Farm on Hayling Island issued the unusual request on social media. The owners say too many visitors to the field of 2 million sunflowers were posing naked for photo shoots. Although there are remote areas of the farm on an island off England's south coast, many were posing nude out in the open. The farm's owners became concerned after children visiting the farm were exposed to the nudity. Although there have been risque social media posts from the farm before, this is the first year it has become a real problem.